Hello again. I'm just getting as much use out of this flag while I can until that Elizabeth takes it up off of me again. Okay, so the next thing I thought I would do is actually something composed by someone else completely. So for my mom's birthday, I made her a website to house all of her writing. For any of you that don't know, my mom has been writing all of her life. And more importantly, much of the writing that she does just out of her own passion is about the stories of her life and the fun stories about growing up from her life. So we children, the 4 children of hers, and probably Tammy might be the only other one actually who gets to grace these stories, but that's who she shows them to. I don't know that they actually go as far to anybody else. So that's why, as a birthday present, I made her a website so that they could be shared further out. But really, it was actually a little bit selfish because I wanted them to be shared to everybody else, because I think that they would have so much value to probably everyone in this room that's there tonight. So right now there are only 3 stories up on the site because I'm a little bit of a snail, but I'm getting there. But the 3rd story that I was uploading just so happened to star Elsie Mae Humby and a certain Jim Carter. So, without further ado, I think that I'll start with this story. Okay. The site is called esthercarterearle.com, and this story, if you wanted to find it, you would just do /life's-ironies. So the story is called Life's Ironies. Elsie Mae Humby grew up in a small Newfoundland outport just after the turn of the 20th century. Hers was a very slow-paced existence, and for the first 18 years of her life, she had never traveled more than 30 miles from the house in which she had been born. Growing up in a small, isolated village in a small, isolated British colony, Elsie Mae, as well as most of the people around her, had a rather limited concept of the true geography of the larger outside world. Her grandfather used to tell stories of the time when, as a young man, he and most of his fellow shipmates had been forcibly removed from the vessel in which they were fishing and taken aboard a British man-o'-war to help defend their part of the island from a fleet of French invaders. Because of incidences such as this, the people of the island looked upon the French as a bad lot, and France, the place these people must have come from, was thought to be a land of troublemakers and located at the furthest ends of the earth. Now, we all know that memorable events have a way of working themselves into the everyday existence of a people. So it came about that whenever someone in Elsie's village was especially annoying, the person being upset would often be heard to make exclamations such as, "Oh, you're such a nuisance! I wish you were in France!" This would signify to the offender that he had tested the uttermost limits of his rival's patience and was being wished the very worst of all possible punishments. Understandably, Elsie also adopted this saying, and since she had a rather quick temper, was often heard to use it in times of extreme exasperation. When she reached her late teens, Elsie, following in the footsteps of her older sister Martha, left her little coastal village and took a train for the 100-mile journey to the center of the island. There she soon met and married the love of her life, and before long settled down to raise a family of her own. As her family grew larger, Elsie's patience grew thinner, and the phrase, "Oh, I wish you were in France," fell from her lips on a somewhat regular basis. Now, the child who got wished away to France most often was Elsie's second son, Jim. Because of his uncanny way of testing her patience to the ultimate, this beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde-haired child had such a winning smile and such mischievous ways that he would melt your heart one minute and break it the next. Typical of the sorts of things he would get up to was the afternoon in late August when 7-year-old Jim and his cousin Bruce decided to have some fun by seeing who could jump off the back veranda and crush the most heads of cabbage. Jim's father had planted the cabbages near the veranda in the spring and had lovingly cared for them all summer long. Granted, now that their leaves were beginning to turn in, the cabbages did look like several rows of green balls waiting to be jumped upon. But this was not how Elsie May saw things when she looked at the crushed and mangled mess that the boys had made of her husband's prized cabbage patch. Instead, she cried out in anguish, "Oh, Jim, I wish you were in France. You've completely ruined your father's garden. What will I do with you? Oh, what will I ever do with you?" In spite of all the heartache and the tears, however, the years rolled on, and almost before she had realized it, the oldest children had all grown up. Moreover, since employment opportunities were limited in central Newfoundland, and since with the coming of Confederation, many new positions were opening up in the Canadian military, the oldest boy, Fred, even began making plans to leave the island altogether. This proved to be a very difficult time for Elsie May, for although in their younger days she had often momentarily wished a child away to France, truth be told, it pained her to have either one of them out of her sight for long. In fact, once they had reached their teenage years and had started having independent social lives outside the home, Elsie had been often heard to say, "The happiest time of your life is when all your little ones are safely tucked into their beds at night and you know where they are." Nevertheless, time could not be made to stand still, and leave they did. First, Fred, the oldest, joined the Royal Canadian Air Force and went off to mainland Canada. Then, the next year, Jim followed in his brother's footsteps, and off they went to places Elsie had never heard of before. Places like Trenton, Ontario, and Rivers, Manitoba. It tore at her heartstrings to see them go, and she missed them terribly, anxiously awaiting every letter they sent, and carefully reading and rereading each one many times over. However, although she didn't know it at the time, Elsie's greatest heartache was waiting just around the corner, and it came to her quite unexpectedly, one beautiful summer day in mid-July. Elsie had been outside working in her flower garden while her younger children were playing in the front yard, when someone cried out that a soldier was coming up the lane. Elsie went to investigate, and who should she see walking towards her but Jim, dressed in full military garb, saying, "They kicked me out, Mother. They couldn't put up with me any longer, so they kicked me out." "Oh, Jim, that can't be true," she exclaimed. "Tell me what really happened." And it was then that Elsie learned the dreadful truth. "Mother, remember when I was growing up and you often wished that I was in France? Well, now your wish is going to come true, for the Air Force is sending me to France." "Jim, that can't be. France is on the other side of the world. Why would anybody want to send you there? When will I ever see you again? Oh, Mom, it's not that bad. I have a couple of weeks leave before I go, and I'll only be gone for 2 years. Jim's voice began to fade out as Elsie's head started spinning, and feelings of guilt and remorse welled up inside her. Surely everyone knew that she hadn't really wished her children away to France. Surely this was some elaborate joke or some monumental misunderstanding. Surely the gods cannot be so utterly unkind. The end. Great job, Mom. Happy birthday, Uncle Jim. I love you. And bless Nanny. That is such an adorable story. I love you, Uncle Jim. I wish I could be there with you. Jump on a few Cabbage Patches for me. Maybe 80, just pulling a number out of the sky, maybe. Jump on 80, just, to mark the occasion. Happy birthday. I love you.